I walked into the conference room and the air hit me like a slap. Stale coffee, cold silence, and tension thick enough to choke on. Everyone was already seated, and Victor, he was in mid-sentence, leaning back like a king, blaming me for the evergreen loss. Should have triple-checked the Q2 projections. We had bad numbers going in, and that's on Scott. He said it without flinching. Just tossed my name in the shredder and kept talking like I wasn't standing there, still holding my laptop bag like an idiot. My name's Scott, by the way, 31. Analyst at Westfield Capital. Or maybe just the office punching bag. Quick note. Before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? Anyway, the Evergreen account was one of our biggest. I spent weeks on the modeling, and I was up till 3 that morning double-checking the forecast. It wasn't the numbers that tanked it. It was Victor's arrogant pitch and EMTT's last-minute revisions. But sure, let's pin it on the quiet guy who never complains. They moved the meeting up by 30 minutes. Didn't tell me. Not an email, not a text, nothing. Not the first time either. 12 faces turned toward me. Some looked smug, a few shifted in their seats. Most just stared down like they were studying the grain of the table. Not one person said a damn word. Victor kept talking. We've got to be more careful about accountability. It's not enough to look busy, folks. We need results. I walked to the far end of the table and sat down. No notepad, no water pitcher, no copy of the agenda. That wasn't an accident. I didn't speak. I didn't interrupt. I wanted to see how far they'd take it. Victor clicked the clicker and pulled up the slide deck. My slide deck. I saw the model I built. He was tearing it apart like he'd never laid eyes on it before. EMTT jumped in, pretending to point out flaws in the numbers they'd butchered after I submitted it. Nobody said a word about that. I looked around the room again, at the little signs. My usual seat was taken. The analyst who used to sit next to me got moved up to the front, next to Victor. The side conversations, the lock-slack threads, the client calls I'd stopped getting invited to. That was when it clicked. This wasn't carelessness. I was being erased, on purpose. So I sat there, quiet, watching. So I sat there taking notes, like I said. But not meeting notes, people notes. I wrote down who stayed quiet, who smiled when Victor took credit, who shifted blame with surgical precision. My name's Scott, not Scott from Money, not a legacy hire. I'm from a trailer park outside Joliet, Illinois. 40 feet of aluminum siding and a busted HVAC unit that whined all summer. My dad patched truck brakes in the winter without gloves. My mom cleaned houses. I wasn't supposed to end up here, but I did. 5 years ago, I walked into Westfield Capital with a second-hand suit, a degree from Illinois State, and the kind of hunger no one teaches you. I'd clawed through 2 years at Joliet Junior College, waited tables, stacked freight at night, then transferred when I could finally afford it. At Westfield, I showed up early, stayed late, volunteered for the grunt work. Can you clean up this model? Mind reviewing the footnotes? Need someone to proof the client deck real quick. I never said no. Not once. They called me dependable, low ego, which really meant he won't complain when we steal his work. Victor would glance at my report, maybe change a font, then present it like it was his brainchild. EMTT, Eli Matthew Taylor III, if you can believe that, would literally copy my analysis, slap his initials on it, and pitch it at client dinners. I'd find out the next day in a forwarded email with some empty compliment like, "Great baseline model, Scott." They cashed bonuses I didn't even know were on the table. I was grinding numbers at midnight while they were ordering aged ribeyes at Peter Luger with C-suite execs. They never invited me, not once, and I took it. For 3 straight years, I took it. Thought maybe if I just kept proving myself, someone would pull me in. But Westfield didn't reward work. It rewarded flash, legacy, connections. So I stopped trying to fit in. I started studying them instead. I watched how Victor walked into rooms, chest out, chin tilted, voice just loud enough to sound sure of himself. I saw how EMTT dressed down analysts for not thinking strategically while riding the coattails of their research. I clocked Harriet, the senior VP, always moving meetings just far enough ahead so I couldn't prep, then scolding me for being off guard. Every move was deliberate. They were playing a game I hadn't even known existed, so I started learning the game. I read every pitch deck they ever presented, learned what words got attention: growth vertical, margin pressure, regulatory tailwinds. I tracked how Victor positioned each client depending on who was in the room. If it was a pension fund, play safe. If it was private equity, sell the upside. I learned the rhythm of Westfield. The office had its own heartbeat. You could hear it in the way people talked when Victor walked by, how voices changed, backs straightened, ideas suddenly shifted to align with his. I saw analysts get promoted for parroting his opinions, not challenging them. So, I stayed quiet. I played dumb. I polished slides, cleaned data, smiled through every recap meeting while watching my work win clients I never even got to speak to. But behind that smile, I was building something else. Not resentment, something sharper. Awareness. I knew exactly who they thought I was: the useful guy, the ghost worker, invisible, replaceable, easy to ignore. So, I leaned into it. I let them underestimate me, let them laugh at my payless shoes and drive off in their Audis while I caught the L train home. But every night, I went home and took notes. On the numbers, on the clients, on the cracks in their strategy they were too arrogant to see. Because I wasn't going to be a ghost forever. So, while they were out golfing, whining clients, and posting about deal flow on LinkedIn, I was at home staring at spreadsheets that actually mattered. Mine. I started small, $4,000. That was all I could spare after rent, gas, and student loans. I put it into a clean water filtration company out of Brazil. 2 engineers with dirt under their nails and no PR budget. Just real numbers and contracts with 3 local governments. Westfield would have laughed them out of the building. But me, I ran the numbers, did my own due diligence, watched 2 quarters tick by. That $4,000 tripled. I didn't tell a soul. While EMTT posted poolside selfies with bottle service, I poured that profit into a recycled aluminum company based in Detroit. No hype, no buzz, just a gritty operation with a supply chain 10 times cleaner than the competition. 6 months later, I had enough to back a Korean lithium battery startup I'd been following for a year. The founder was 34, ex-military, refused to outsource production, and didn't give a damn about press. But his tech beat Tesla's on efficiency by 8%. Westfield was too busy chasing AI vaporware and crypto garbage to notice. I noticed. And I kept going. Every bonus check, every overtime dollar. They went straight into my side portfolio. I tracked everything in a second laptop I kept locked in my car. I didn't even run the software on the company Wi-Fi. Nobody at Westfield had a clue. They still thought I was the guy who could polish up slides real nice. Victor would toss decks my way last minute with comments like, "You've got a good eye, Scott. Just make it pop." "Sure, Victor, I'll make it pop." While you were busy overpaying for steak dinners and blowing cigar smoke into private equity deals, I was quietly outperforming Westfield's own managed portfolios by double digits. That first year, I beat their returns by almost 12%. But I didn't gloat. I didn't show off. Let them laugh at my $10 haircut and the muffler that rattled when I pulled into the garage. Let EMTT make his little jokes about my shirts from Target. I wasn't playing for applause anymore. I was playing for position. And every win made me sharper. I learned how to spot red flags faster than our risk team. Learned how to vet founders, how to sniff out fake growth. I wasn't just picking stocks. I was studying behavior, psychology, power, and leverage. See, Westfield liked to act like the market was this clean system of numbers and logic. It wasn't. It was chaos wrapped in branding. And most of the guys in that building, they weren't smarter. They were just louder. I stopped trying to out-talk them. I decided I'd outwork them, quietly, relentlessly. By the time I crossed the $50,000 mark in my private fund, I had a system, a checklist, a strategy I believed in. No emotion, no buzzwords, no nonsense. Just real companies solving real problems. I wasn't chasing trends. I was running laps around them, and the more I won, the less I needed Westfield. But I kept the mask on. I still nodded in meetings, still took notes when Victor blabbed about synergizing market momentum, still smiled when EMTT bragged about his bonus. Let them keep thinking I was harmless. I wasn't there to get noticed. I was there to watch the cracks form, then push. The cracks showed up in a Tuesday briefing, Harriet's email, bullet point number 3, new client on board, Solent via Novamax Industries. I read that line twice. Solent. 3 months earlier, I'd picked up 12% of Novamax, quietly through 2 brokerage accounts. They were underpriced, undervalued, and sitting on Solent like it was some ugly little cousin, but I'd done the math. Solent wasn't a sideshow, it was the future. They just didn't know how to run it until now. I got looped into the internal account team, barely. EMTT took lead, of course. Said something like, Scott can handle the background analysis. I wasn't on any client calls. I wasn't in the pitch meetings, just a name in the CC line. But I saw enough. Their plan? Strip it. Sell Solentech's patents to a Chinese fund that didn't care if the tech sat on a shelf for the next 10 years. Spin out what was left, write it off, and move on. It was short-term thinking, lazy, safe, and gutless, and it made me sick. So I built a counter-report. Nights and weekends, no paper trail. A full strategic overhaul showing exactly how Solentech could be restructured, operations, R&D, distribution, and turn a profit inside 3 years. I mapped out a long-term comp plan, highlighted how Novamax could reposition itself as a clean energy leader. Then I slipped the report into the chain. Quiet, direct, no flash, just the work. 2 days later, I got pulled into Victor's office. He didn't even offer me a seat, just stood behind his desk with that smug corporate grin, flipping through a printed version like it was some kid's science project. You wrote this? Yeah. You sent it to Harriet? She oversees the energy vertical. He dropped the packet on his desk like it burned his hand. You don't get to redirect strategy, Scott. You're not a partner. You're not lead on this deal. You're background. A numbers guy. I'm also a shareholder. He blinked. That threw him off for half a second. What? I own 12% of Novamax through private channels. I have a legal stake in how Solentech's handled. He took a breath, then smiled like a lawyer in a bad commercial. You're out of your depth. You think you're helping, but you're getting in the way. This isn't your call. I kept my face still. My jaw was tight, but I didn't flinch. It's not sabotage, I said. It's due diligence, the kind no one here seems interested in. He sat down, like I wasn't worth standing for anymore. Stay in your lane, Scott. Final warning. That was the moment. That exact second, I knew I'd never have a future at Westfield. Didn't matter how many hours I worked or how right I was. They'd rather kill the golden goose than admit it came from the wrong neighborhood. I walked out of his office without saying another word. Didn't slam the door, didn't cause a scene. Just nodded to his assistant and went back to my desk. But in my head, the countdown had already started. They didn't just bury the report, they buried me. Next morning, I walked in, badge wouldn't scan. Email locked out. Victor's assistant met me in the hallway with that tight, fake smile and a printed memo. Administrative performance leave, effective immediately. Corporate speak 4, get lost. No warning, no meeting. Just 2 weeks to reflect on your alignment with firm goals. Joke's on them. I went home, poured coffee, and opened my private laptop. 31 calls, that's what it took. I started with a fund manager in Seattle I'd met in an online forum for private equity analysts. Then a buddy from Illinois State, now working VC in Austin. I hit up a couple seed investors I'd traded notes with, back when I bought into that Korean lithium startup. Some said no, some asked for proof. I gave it to them, told them the truth. Novamax was sitting on a gold mine. Solentech had scalable IP, clean margins, and a path to dominance if someone smart took the wheel. Westfield didn't see it, but I did. And I wasn't asking for charity, I had data. Models, growth curves, restructuring timelines. I showed them how Novamax was undervalued by nearly 50%. How Solentech wasn't a strip and flip target. It was a future market leader waiting for someone with vision. 10 days later, I had what I needed. We pulled the trigger through a private equity group registered under my buddy's name. Quiet, legal, clean. Controlling interest in Novamax. I didn't even have time to celebrate. The ink was drying, and I still had a job to exit. I walked into Westfield one last time. Security badge, still dead. A box of my junk, half-used notebook, dead mouse, coffee mug with a crack, was waiting on the receptionist's desk. Victor came out of his glass office all smooth, like this was a casual Tuesday. Clean break, he said. No hard feelings. I just looked at him. Tell me, I said. How's Solent doing? He blinked, 1 second too slow, then shrugged like he wasn't sweating. We've had complications, I bet. They tried to strip the company and got slapped with pushback from Novamax's new leadership. They probably didn't even know who was behind the curtain yet. I picked up my box. He held the door. You're a smart guy, Scott, he said. I hope you land somewhere that fits. Oh, I already did, I told him. He tilted his head like a dog hearing a strange noise, but I was already walking out. I didn't look back. Not when the door clicked shut behind me. Not when I tossed the box in the back of my car. Let them think I was done. Let them think they won. Dinner at Bravado, mahogany walls, waiters in black vests, every table sealed off by velvet curtains like private VIP booths. It was the kind of place Westfield booked for closing dinners or courting clients too rich to bother with lunch. This time, they were the ones being courted. Solent's new board had invited them to pitch a revised growth strategy, standard client review. Except now, I was the board, quietly, no fanfare, no press. The new leadership, our leadership, was reviewing all outside consultants. Westfield was on the list. I was invited as a guest, no title, just Scott, former analyst. I showed up 15 minutes early, not to prep, just to watch. Victor walked in with EMTT, and Harriet, EMTT, was in some overpriced gray jacket, talking loud like the room was his. Victor looked relaxed, confident, like this was already in the bag. They didn't recognize me, not yet. Dinner started calm, small talk, wine. The CEO of Solent, Laura Ramirez, sharp as hell, and zero tolerance for fluff, gave a quick welcome. Then EMTT stood. He smiled like he was walking onto a TED stage. Thank you, Laura, for having us. We're excited to share a bold, data-driven path forward for Solent's growth phase. He clicked the first slide, sleek graphics, fancy charts, words like scalability and IP monetization strategy. Then she raised her hand. Before we start, she said. EMTT paused mid-click. Laura turned toward me. Scott, could you clarify your role in our original operational analysis? Victor blinked. Harriet froze with her fork halfway to her mouth. EMTT let out a half chuckle, like she'd asked if I catered the food. Victor leaned forward. Scott was one of our junior spreadsheet guys. He worked in the analytics pool. Laura didn't look at him. She pulled a folder from her bag, placed it on the table. My original plan, the one they buried, the one they laughed off, the one now running the company. Victor's smile slipped. This plan, she said, flipping it open, was submitted to Westfield weeks before the divestment suggestion. It's now the backbone of our current strategy. Harriet cleared her throat, glanced at EMTT. No one said a word. Laura looked back at me. Do you mind explaining how this plan made it from theory to implementation? I kept my voice steady. I led the group that acquired Novamax. We own controlling interest in Solent. I'm here tonight as the company you're trying to pitch to. Silence. Forks down. EMTT looked like he'd swallowed a nail. Victor's face went pale. No, he said. You're not. I am. Laura nodded. I've confirmed everything. Scott's team not only saved this company, they did it using the exact model your firm rejected. Harriet tried to recover. We weren't aware of... You were aware, I cut in. You just didn't care. EMTT sat down slowly, closed his laptop. Victor didn't speak again. Laura looked at me one more time. We appreciate you being here tonight. The board has reviewed Westfield's proposal. No further presentation is necessary. Translation, you're done. I didn't smirk, didn't rub it in. I just sat back while the server quietly cleared EMTT's untouched plate. They walked into Bravado, thinking they owned the room. They didn't realize I'd already bought the building. Laura gave the nod, and her assistant stepped forward with a leather-bound stack, one folder for each person at the table. No logo, just weight. Victor opened his first, cocky, until his eyes hit the first page. An organization chart, my name at the top. Chairman, Novamax Holdings. He blinked hard, the glass tipped. Water spilled all over his custom folder and the tablecloth. EMTT froze mid-slide, still half standing. Harriet leaned back slow, her lips tightening like someone stapled them shut. I didn't move. This is the current structure of Novamax and its subsidiaries, including Solent, I said. The changes were finalized last week. I let the silence do the rest. We've restructured operations based on the proposal you all dismissed, I added. The one buried in a folder and left off the official roadmap. Victor wiped his hands on a cloth napkin. You went behind our backs. No, I said. I went through the front door you left wide open. Laura smiled politely, didn't say a word. I looked at Dimitri, quiet guy, second-year analyst who used to pull late nights near my desk. Never talked much, but he knew numbers like muscle memory. He met my eyes, confused. Dimitri, I said, you ever think about working somewhere that actually listens when you speak? He hesitated. Every day. Good answer. You'll be getting a call. Then I turned to Talia. Smart, creative, the only person at Westfield who ever gave honest feedback without kissing anyone's ass. Talia, I've seen your brand strategy work. It's 10 times what Westfield deserves. Want a chance to lead a full rebrand campaign? She smiled before she even said yes. Victor slammed his folder shut. You're poaching now? I'm offering opportunities. If they take them, that's their call, Harriet finally spoke. This is sabotage. No, I said, this is business. And I'm good at it. They sat there, silent, boxed in by linen and power they didn't hold anymore. Laura leaned forward, folded her hands. As of tonight, Solent is formally ending its relationship with Westfield Capital. Thank you for your time. 20% of Westfield's revenue. Gone. Victor opened his mouth, then closed it. EMTT stared down like the numbers were bleeding in front of him. Harriet stood first, slow, like the ground wasn't stable anymore. Nobody shook hands. They walked out like they were leaving a funeral. I stayed seated, let the moment sink in. I didn't gloat, didn't smile. Just watched the door swing shut behind them and let myself breathe for the first time in 5 years. The following Monday, I walked into Novamax HQ as chairman. No champagne, no cameras. Just the morning sun bouncing off glass walls and the hum of something real starting to move. My office smelled like fresh paint and new carpet. No nameplate yet. Didn't need one. First thing my assistant said. Victor had already called. Twice. First message was hostile, she said. Second one asked if you were open to collaboration. Yeah, I bet it did. I didn't call back. Instead, I sat down and pulled the old photo from my backpack. A whiteboard shot, crappy lighting, marker streaks everywhere, coffee cup in the corner, my original pitch for Solent. I pinned it to the wall behind my desk. That was enough. Talia got to work immediately. She built a branding campaign that actually matched what the company stood for. Innovation without arrogance. Clean design, strong message, no recycled buzzwords. She brought in a small team, half freelancers, all hungry. Dimitri, he overhauled our entire analytics system in under 6 weeks. Built dashboards our board could actually use. And when we rolled out our new pricing model, he was already 3 steps ahead, flagging margin blind spots no one else saw. We crushed our first quarter, then the second. By the end of the third, we'd tripled our year-over-year revenue. Not with hype, not with some flashy merger, just grit and clear thinking and people who'd been overlooked for too damn long. Harriet tried working back channels, sent word through mutual contacts, asked for meetings off the record. I ignored her. EMTT got shuffled sideways. Some strategic advisor role that didn't mean much. I heard he stopped showing up in person. Probably couldn't face the interns who used to fetch him coffee. Victor, gone in 6 months. Some quiet exit. No farewell email, no press. Just disappeared into the same air he used to suck out of every room. I didn't gloat. Didn't post some dramatic quote about revenge. I went to work. Every morning, I came in before the lights auto-switched on. And every night, I left when the janitor started vacuuming the hallway. You want to know what fueled me? It wasn't spite. It was watching people who'd never been given a shot absolutely own their moment. People like Dimitri, like Talia, like the engineers at Solent who used to get cut out of budget talks, but now sat in on strategy meetings. We didn't build this company on pedigree. We built it on proof, and every number told the same story. They bet on the wrong people. We didn't. 18 months later, Solent went public. The bell rang, cameras flashed, and my name never showed up once. Fine by me. My original investment multiplied over 30 times. The group I led cleared a return so strong it broke 3 internal records. Forbes called it the redemption of the year. I didn't take interviews, didn't smile for magazine spreads or do keynote panels. I wasn't in it for the fame. One write-up said, I appeared out of nowhere. That part made me laugh. They don't know how long I'd been standing in that room, how long I watched from the edges, unnoticed, how many times I got talked over, cut out, erased. They don't know what it feels like to pour everything into a pitch deck, only to have it stolen, watered down, and sold as someone else's idea. They don't know what it's like to nod politely while someone dumber than you explains your own numbers to a client. But I do, and I kept one reminder of it, an old, half-dead office plant. I took it home from my Westfield desk, some dry, sad little thing with 2 yellow leaves and dust in the pot. Everyone else had ditched theirs when they got promoted or transferred. Mine's still here, on my windowsill, green now, strong, growing like hell. I water it every morning, no fanfare, no music playing in the background. Just part of the routine, because I didn't burn bridges, I just built a taller building right next to them. Now I look down and see the rooftop where Victor used to drink his scotch after work, the same place EMTT would wave off analysts like they were interns begging for scraps. Some folks say revenge is sweet. I don't. Revenge is petty, emotional, sloppy. This wasn't revenge. This was math. They got what they earned. I got what I built. It's not sweet. It's cold, sharp, clean, justice. So if you've ever been sidelined, mocked, or told you lack vision, let them laugh. Let them joke about your car, your clothes, your voice in meetings. Study work, wait. Then buy the room they used to lock you out of. And don't forget to water your damn plant.